Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to our presentation. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This will be a short presentation based on our final project, which is a podcast interview with our Dean of Faculty Islamic Technology, Professor Hafiz. So this is an insight of presentation from us, which is me and Rifat, from us, which are the team of interview. We are the interviewing team in the podcast itself. So let's move on. So meet the interviewer team. Me, myself, Muhammad Firdaus bin Matahir, 23B 121217, and my classmate, which is Muhammad Rifat Alhan. So basically, this is the simple agenda that we are going to dig in. Maybe just a brief insight about our side of role of interviewing for this podcast. So there are some stages in recording this podcast. So these are the agenda, which is firstly is the pre-production phase, and then the production phase, and then challenges. Of course, every role there will always be a challenge, and lastly the conclusion. First and foremost, I would like to maybe just why I chose as an interview, because I wanted to expand my critical thinking and facing my fears of speaking to the camera or speaking with a highly known person or with a person who has a lot of experience, such as Prof. Hafiz. So for the pre-production phase, we identified what was the topic itself, what was the vision of the podcast, where it wanted to go. So basically, this one for this podcast with Prof. Hafiz is basically first is understanding the theme of the podcast and a brief research on the questions what to highlight in the podcast. So we knew that the podcast was leaning towards more on the insight of Prof. Hafiz, his vision on the Faculty of Islamic Technology, and also a brief research of the questions. So this one we liaised with our research and script writing team. Kudos to them for making the questions, and also the interesting questions that we had to look in. So these are the questions that the finalized questions that were used in the podcast, but take in mind that not all of them are actually used for the podcast, because it was very time consuming, because we also booked the studio from this time to this time, so we had limited time. So these are it was broken down into three parts, which is warm-up questions. So these warm-up questions is just to start the engine, is just to introduce each of us, including the Prof. Hafiz itself as the guest, because we need to know first ta'aruf first, and then we need to know what's the topic, what's the person behind, and then we start off the topic. So a bit background of Prof. Hafiz and our introduction, and then moving on, there are the parts of content. These are the main part that we want to tackle inside the podcast. So basically, it's more, as you can see there, a lot of questions are, for example, can you start by telling us what inspired you to take on the challenge of developing our faculty? So it's the content is, as we knew what the theme was, it's about Faculty of Technology Islam. So the questions are leaning towards that. So it's about the faculty, it's about what we want to see from the vision of Prof. Hafiz about this faculty, what are the maybe the expectation, or what are the qualities maybe of this faculty. And then there's a closing part, which is to end the podcast, to wrap up the podcast, is actually just from basically yes, it's to give an advice for the students, or for the any students who are into the technology field. So basically, in this all of these questions, we took two parts with it, which is the first part was just handled by Rifat himself, and then the next part until the closing is my part from the questions. So because my part was actually from I think what do you think is the future of Islamic media and communication as a field, I was not completing the what do you call the questions, because it was time consuming. So we had to be smart in selecting the questions.
Next, I will be talking more on the things that we did for the pre-production of this podcast. The first one is setting the mood through the whole podcast. Since we were interviewing Professor Hafiz, we had to set this sort of seriousness or professionalism in the podcast. And next one is planning a smooth intro and ending. And the third one is reading through questions as guidelines. And this last one is the important one, understanding the guest's background. This one is important because it will help the interviewer to have a more natural conversation with their guests. Moving on to the production phase of the podcast. The first one is, of course, as an interviewer, you need to be an active listener. You don't want to miss on any details that the guests are telling you, because you might need that information for your next questions. And the second one is maintaining the momentum of the podcast. And the third one is maintaining that natural discussion, so when the audience are watching the podcast, they will have a fun and engaging experience. After that, I will be talking on the challenges that we faced during the production of this podcast. The first one is scheduling issue. We shot the video on Thursday because it was the only day that Professor Hafiz was available to come from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. But on the other hand, the general intake students were also having class that morning, so they had to attend class first before coming to the studio to join us in shooting the podcast. And the second challenge is lack of equipment. We, of course, it's our first time making a podcast video, and we were using the stuff that the studio is providing us, and we were also having our own equipment, like our own mobile phone, and we also had to add our own lighting, because the ones in the studio weren't enough to make the lighting suitable for the podcast. And the third one is staying within the time limit of the video. As interviewers, we are handling we are managing the flow of the podcast. So we wouldn't want the podcast to feel like it's dragging off or going off topic, so that the audience will be able to watch or listen to what they came for. To conclude this podcast, I will be talking about the things that we have learned from producing this podcast, and inshallah we will be applying these techniques that we have learned, or things that we have learned, the next time we will be doing a podcast. The first and the most important one is, of course, make enough preparations before the shooting. And these preparations include understanding or getting to know more about your guest background, because it will help you as an interviewer to have a meaningful and insightful conversation with them. The next one is asking questions that can further elaborate the topic or the answer that they were giving. This can help in extracting more details on that topic. And the last one is make the conversation more entertaining. For example, maybe by throwing in a few jokes in the conversation, but it has to be suitable with the situation and the guest that you're speaking with. That will be all for our team's presentation, and thank you for listening. We hope that this presentation is explaining the details comprehensively on our tasks. وبالله التوفيق والهداية والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.